So we talked at length a few weeks ago about our experiences at C2E2, the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo, but that is only one of what is increasingly more and more comic conventions in the city of Chicago proper. But one show that's been a Chicago mainstay for years now and is coming up again is Cake, the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo. And joining me to talk about it and its upcoming art auction is one of the Cake organizers, John Massantono.
Hi, Patrick.
Hey, John. It's been a long time since you've been on this podcast. In fact, you were on it episode 27 back in, 2010. But more than that, you've been part of my comic book retailing career for close to 20 years now.
I think about 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I think you started at a store we won't talk about.
Late 90s, August 99 is when that store started.
So we're at 20 years now.
Yeah, we're coming up.
Because I was going to that store before you showed up.
I didn't think there was anything before me. It's so weird.
No, there wasn't.
And not only are you a Cake organizer and a devoted Challengers customer, you've been a good friend for many years, so I thank you for that. But let's talk about Cake. How long has Cake been around?
Cake has been around. The first Cake was in 2012.
Okay.
The first show was at Columbia.
Oh.
And after that, starting in 2013, it has been at Center on Halsted on the 3rd floor.
Where it remains again this year?
Yes.
And it's the first weekend of June, right? The Saturday and Sunday?
Correct. It's June 1st and 2nd.
Oh, wow. That's easy. It's 1 and 2. That's easy to remember. And now it's kind of, didn't it float around in the early days as far as the date? But now it's always in June?
We got smart. We started checking the Cub schedule.
Ah.
The Center on Halsted started to like us a little bit more and think of us as a big event for them. So they'd say, okay, we can let you reserve the first 2 weekends in June until the Cub schedule comes out.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
They've been a really good host to us, and it's been a very good partnership with them. And we like that our show is in a gay community center, and you don't have to drag yourself to Rosemont or
it's a Chicago show, but it's in Chicago proper. It feels like it's a Chicago show, and Center on Halsted is a good building, a good property. There's a Whole Foods right there if you want to get snacks ahead of time. Parking is relatively easy.
When I do other shows, it's very hard to compete with there's a grocery store on the first floor.
Definitely.
It's very hard to compete with that.
Definitely. Who are some of the big names for this year?
This year we're looking forward to Nick Gerwich,
nice,
who reached out to us and is
the
guy who did Prairie Bible Fellowship.
He reached out to you. That's great.
Yeah, he applied out of the blue, and we were like, wow, we'd like to make a bigger deal out of this, and he was amenable to that. He's been the nicest guy. I've been very impressed with him, and that tends to be the case. Like, the bigger names always impress me with just one step beyond, out of their way to be nice to us, or just the people who could big time us the most are the people who are the most generous, who get back to us the fastest, who are the most on top of everything they're doing, the most organized.
That's great.
That always makes me feel good about things.
And doesn't it really give you a sense of pride that they find value in this thing that you're doing?
Yeah, that's nice. Because we are all volunteers. It's a volunteer-run show. We're a not-for-profit.
You're not only is a volunteer-run show and non-for-profit, it's a free show. It's a free show for the community.
Yeah, we've managed to budget it so it is free to the public, which is not true of SPX or some other larger alternative comic shows. But yeah, we've been lucky, and the community has been generous, and we keep our table fees pretty low too. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy about that.
Legitimately, there is a convention called Chicago Comic-Con. That name got sold, and Wizard owns it, so that exists. But it really feels like Cake embodies the scene of comics in Chicago more than other shows do. And I deliberately phrase it that way so I'm not putting the words Chicago and comics directly next to each other just because that's proprietary for someone else. But I really feel like Cake is the show that defines Chicago. To be fair, C2E2, which is a great show and people have a lot of fun, that can be put on elsewhere.
Right.
But Cake is a Chicago show.
Yeah, I don't run into Paul Rudd when I go to Gene's Sausage to pick up groceries or anything like that. But because we're a juried show. I mean, you've been on the jury for
a couple years now.
Yeah, a few years, right? Because of that, we get a good cross section of the Chicago community and different styles of artists, and it's not real. It's curated, and the organizers have some influence, but I hope as time goes on, we've gotten even more diverse. And last year, a number of people came up to me personally and said, this seems like the most diverse it's ever been in terms of represented styles and web cartoonists people I'd never heard of with 600,000 followers on Instagram, and just exciting and just a crossroads. And
you're like, wait till next year.
Yeah, and I mean, we expanded the jury even more this year, and I think it will be a really exciting show. I'm really excited.
So one of the things that you do, as the Cake does, to keep it a free show, is you raise money via an art auction. And the 2019 art auction is coming up in a week or so, right? It's
2 weeks from, we're recording on Friday of NXT TakeOver. Friday the 5th, and it is...
Which is how I keep track of my days as well. It's WrestleMania weekend, so it's Friday. Right. That means NXT, so Saturday must be New Japan Ring of Honor at Madison Square Garden. Sunday, WrestleMania.
Yes. Or Hall of Fame, if you're nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. So 2 weeks from now on April
19th at 826 Chai's Space, which is on Milwaukee Avenue.
Oh, yeah. In our neighborhood.
Sure. Yeah. Nearby.
Yeah.
Nearby the podcast studio.
What time?
It starts at 7 p.m. and we keep it a fairly tight schedule. You're done by 10.
Okay.
The program's done by, a little after 9. Usually.
So you'll be auctioning off original art from creators who will be at the show? Or
some of them will be at the show.
Or other people that have donated or contributed. And is it just art? Is it merchandise? Is it...
It's mostly original art. I would say 90% of it is a drawing or painting or some piece that is totally unique and was made by the artist. There are a couple prints in the mix, reso prints or people who work digitally who couldn't donate an original that we still wanted to include.
Sure.
And we have 10 pieces that are... auctioned live. Beth Hetland is our auctioneer this year. She's a Chicago cartoonist.
Sure. We've got a bunch of her books in the local section. Yeah. And what's amazing to me is, she's still someone we reach out to for Women's Comics Month, but now we have a crop of people that are exhibiting at the store who are students of hers.
Yeah.
So she's responsible for helping shape the next generation of Chicago-based comic artists.
I think she's a great teacher, and I think she's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life. So when you say there's 10 things that are live auctioned, right?
What does that mean? They're on the spot versus...
Yeah. And then there's another 20 to 30 that are in a silent auction.
Okay. Gotcha. There's
a fairly robust raffle as well. So $5 raffle tickets, and a bunch of good raffle prizes, and that was very successful last year.
So it sounds like you have so many pieces you wouldn't even be able to number. Say we have 47 pieces or whatever. It sounds like you have a lot of choices for people who would attend this.
Yeah, I mean, I try to organize it that way, and that is definitely a delicate balance and requires a lot of my time and organizational skills to do, but I want to make sure that there's something for everybody.
There definitely is. I mean, not only do you have, I don't know if I want to lead with this because it's so amazing, but an original Perry Bible Fellowship page.
Yeah.
Work from Michael Kupperman.
Yeah. Special guest this year.
Yeah. I'm so excited for Michael Kupperman, even though he's been to Chowners before. You and I have been out to dinner with him before.
Yeah.
But I'm still excited for him.
And brunch.
Yeah?
Brunch was fun, too. Yeah, I mean, he's a genius, and again, one of the funniest people I've ever met. And when we got to meet him when he came out for your Strange Tales, which was Marvel's indie anthology.
Yeah.
He came out for your event with that, with
Becky Cloonan,
Yeah.
Paul Hornschmeyer,
That's exactly right.
and Jeffrey Brown, but not at our event.
Right. Yeah, that was nice continuity, and he was someone that the group of organizers was excited about bringing as a guest, and
Nice.
we like to meet the people that we're going to bring out.
Sure.
We like to at least have one of them. Have we met this person? Do we know that they're not going to be a
vet them
creep?
a little bit. Yeah.
But, we have a pretty strong anti-bullying policy, and we have a pretty strong safer spaces policy, but our anti-creep policy is tantamount to everything. Our anti-creep policy is the number one thing.
It wouldn't be a week in the comics industry without somebody else's true colors being revealed, which we won't get into because I don't want to give any bandwidth to stories this week from somebody who's been writing for years.
Well, it's sad, and I think there's, the power balance has to change, and I think that we can all do our part to make a better community.
And you're definitely doing that with Cake.
Thank you.
Can you name just a handful of the artists who have contributed to the auction?
Sure. I can. Isabella Rotman gave us 3 of the
her
tarot
cards. Yeah,
that are Kickstarter coming soon. I think she filmed the Kickstarter video today.
Oh, nice.
I've seen a bunch of them colored, and I think it's going to be amazing. And the card art is just beautiful. They're hand-drawn tarot cards, which, what a special thing.
Would
Johnny...
would those be 1 auction or 3?
I think 1
okay.
live auction item. I got to see the
whole. Sure.
I got to see the whole puzzle picture before I'm
asking just because I got to see those 3 cards, and I liked them. But anyway, please continue, Johnny.
I probably shouldn't do it that way. I probably should split them up, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And I like to always get other people's input as well, because I trust the people I work with a lot. I trust the other organizers a lot, and Johnny Sampson, who has been drawing the Mad Magazine relaunch and did last year's Cake poster, which is nominated for a prestigious illustration award.
Wow, excellent.
And is just the best guy. I mean, when he comes in to drop off the art that he brings his kids and he always buys something, and you're just like, brightens your day. And I think he spreads that everywhere he goes. He gave us a very large Rodney Dangerfield gouache painting that's my favorite thing.
Excellent.
I think people will be excited about that. Corinne Halbert gave us a beautiful painting of some nuns who've taken some illicit substances, and it's great. I love it. That was one we took out of the plastic, and it was just vibrating and glowing and just like, wow, this is like a magical object. I love this. Marnie Galloway,
who did the poster,
did this year's poster and show art as well, and was a Cake organizer for a year or 2, and is great. I mean, one of our favorite people. Bianca Eunice gave us a really nice Josephine Baker drawing.
Nice.
I mean, there's 40 things I could take.
Sure.
On my phone.
Yeah, I'm not. I just wanted to give people a sample, but
Sarah Beacon's ramen cookbook.
Oh yeah, which is debuting later this year.
Yeah, I believe
it's a page from that. Yeah. So it sounds like there's something for everybody.
I'm forgetting a ton of people, but
we don't have time to list everybody.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of great stuff, and I'm fortunate enough to get to see a lot of it as it comes in, because it comes to us to give to you, but you're generous enough to open it while I'm there.
Well,
we never open it, obviously. Yeah. That's not true. I opened Isabella Rotman's tarot cards by mistake because I got excited because it said 2 challengers from Isabella Rotman. I'm like, oh, what did she send us? And I totally glanced over the part where it says care of Cake.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I opened it, I'm like, oh, right. No, this is not for me. Okay. Put those away. That's wrong. But John, you're also a talented and prolific creator yourself, writer and artist of a lot of your own work. So as a Cake organizer, you've never actually been able to sit behind a table and sell your stuff.
Oh, I did twice.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was a coordinator, I tabled twice.
But you've had so much work since then.
Yeah. Since I stepped up to be a core organizer, I haven't done that. We have a staff and organizers table behind the info table where just anyone who volunteers at the show can place books, and I put stuff there, but that's not the same as tabling.
Sure.
Which is too bad, because it is the best money show I know by far for me, and a lot of people tell me that. Our mutual friend RJ Casey you always see his smiling face, and he was just saying, should just nod his head saying cake is the best.
Yeah.
Cake is always the best money. It's always the best time. And he's been around. So
RJ always will give me a heads up like, hey, this Fantagraphics thing coming out this summer, it's one to watch. This one should be a big deal. And he said that about My Favorite Thing is Monsters, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, that book is unreal.
Yeah.
I love that book, and I love her. She was a special guest 2 years ago and did a bunch of shows in 2017. She was at SPX that year as well.
Excellent.
And just takes so much time to just sit with people and kind of talk to them about spiritual things and draw them in the book. You know, she'll draw. She'll
amazing.
do a whole long, beautiful drawing in your book. And just like, you know, my interactions with her have been few, but I feel like she just really makes you feel like connected with her. Like,
that's great.
She's amazing. She's amazing. She blew me away. And the second volume of that book is yet to come. So I think there's a free comic book day preview of the second volume.
I don't know so much if it's a preview of the second volume or of the first, but definitely there's a My Favorite Thing is Monsters free comic day book. So going back to your art for a second, if people can't find it at the show, where can people find out more about you as a creator?
At Drawdoer or drawdoer.com.
Okay.
DrawDoer.
Okay.
Or you can find my books at Challengers or Quimby's or Chicago Comics. Quimby's and Chicago Comics have little sections for me.
Nice.
Challengers, though.
Oh, I see. I see how it goes. Well, whose art adorns our local artist sign?
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, take that, Quimby's and or Chicago Comics.
No, you got me. You got me. You've been super supportive and generous, and I was just someone who shopped at your store, and then one day said I want to start drawing comics,
and you've done it.
Yeah.
And you still do it.
I mean, I'm going to TCAF this year, and
that's great.
I was on the Comics Journal's Best of 2018. Wow. Did I tell you that?
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Dying of Thirst was on Comics Journal's
Dying of Thirst was really good.
It was that one. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
Really, like, I've known you, as we just said, for almost 20 years, but there's a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know.
Oh. Well, I mean, some of it's fiction, but, you know.
But you like to project.
Yeah, I mean, fiction's not.
Like, I mean, the gamma radiation part, that was all new to me.
They're pretty emotionally intimate comics, but usually the things people think are drawn from personal experience usually aren't. And
well, that's just how good you are as a creator.
I mean,
making people believe that it's all, you know, drawn from personal experience, which ultimately, also I didn't mean that pun of drawn from, but I mean, ultimately, even if it's fiction, it's still drawn from personal experience.
I mean, if only I could be friends for 20 years with, you know, everyone, then they would probably like my comics too. But, it's not really feasible.
I don't think it takes that much effort to like your work. But thank you for coming on and talking about cake.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for the opportunity.
Sure.
We really appreciate everything you've done for us as sponsors and as a friend of the show.
Once again, the auction is Saturday the 19th
No, Friday
the 19th.
April 19th.
What month is it? Friday, April 19th.
19th.
See, that's why you have to correct me. Friday, April 19th at 826 Chai. And cake is June 1st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday, at the Center in Halsted.
That's right. And we have a lot of special guests and a lot of art that I didn't mention. But you can visit our website at cakechicago.com and get more details there.
I've never mentioned this. One of my favorite things is that the acronym doesn't fit exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that part about it.
I like it too. We hear about it a lot. You know, it comes up a lot. It's just one of those things that comes up. The things that come up a lot are the band cake. And that the K should be a C.
Then it wouldn't be cake.
It wouldn't be cake.
Cake is and like, you say cake in Chicago, people know what you're talking about. Especially in the comics community.
I hope so. I mean, until the time when, you know, the kids make something better and just come up and eat our lunch right out from under us, and then we just give them the money.
As it should be.
Then, you know, and then that day I can stop doing this.
Like we said with Beth, who's paving the way for the next generation. You're paving the way for the next generation of convention organizers.
Yeah, I mean...
People, you know, they'll stand upon your shoulders to reach their next heights.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, like, Chicago Zine Fest is its 10th year this year, and you look at some of the Zine Fests that were prevalent before that didn't succeed. But it's so diverse and interesting. I love looking at that stuff. Even
the Center in Halstead hosted for 2 years the Windy City Comic Con.
Right, yeah.
Back in 2008 and 9 or 9 and 10. And that was that show didn't last, but it showed what a great venue that is for the comics community.
Yeah, and I saw our friend's Pocket Con. Have you ever gone to that?
No,
Terry
but
has.
Yeah.
The couple years I went, it was in the Cultural Center.
Oh, okay.
But it's representative of people of color who make comics, and I know our friend Terry Gant has been involved in some way every year. I think they are in a budgetary crisis and posted that they need money this year. So I hope they get the money they need, because that was a really nice thing to have, and I hope they are successful in getting that. But it is very difficult, because it is a hard thing to budget when you spend all your money on 2 days.
Sure, yeah.
It's a hard thing to budget over a year, and when you have a volunteer staff and people come and go, it can just be challenging. But at this auction we raise about a quarter of our yearly budget.
Oh, that's great. Well, now with the reach that this podcast has, you're gonna raise like at least 26% of your budget.
When you said it was on the Yak channel, I said, you got to get me on there.
Yeah, and I waived the normal booking fee because of our history.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate
Happy to have you.
I am a listener of this podcast.
That's true. That. Yeah, and you give feedback.
I don't always make it to the end of the podcast, and I don't always know, some of the details of distribution or how you order these things it's still kind of a mystery to me after all this time.
It's a mystery to me, and I've been doing this for almost 29 years.
It's hard. I think what you do is difficult, but I appreciate it.
Cake's art auction and Cake itself, both coming up very soon. John, thanks for being on.
Patrick, I really appreciate it, and thank you for all your support and your friendship over the years.
Challengers is the
best.
Thank you.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics. Keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, we are professional podcast recorders and podcasteers. And as such, people expect a level of quality from us for this specific podcast, this comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Network in Chicago. So I'm going to have to ask you to make car noises since we are not recording in a moving vehicle.
Rumble, 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 rumble.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, thanks.
Now make it rain. Wow, I feel like we're on the road again. This is amazing. Okay, everybody, we're in a car going to... Where are we going to? No, you can't talk. You have to do the car noises.
Why were you asking the noises?
Never mind. The illusion is ruined. Now people think we're just in... I don't know. Where do people think?
The recording studio.
Well,
our multi-million-dollar recording studio.
That's what we're in. But what do people think we're in? Like, do you think people have a different idea? Like, they think that we're just standing behind a counter at the store doing this?
I wonder if people do.
Yeah, which we're not.
I never really thought to ask.
You can tell when we record in the store. It's got more background noise.
Yeah, you hear the ding of the door.
Or just traffic going by because it's only glass.
Cars rumbling the windows.
Yeah.
Rumble, rumble, rumble.
So we're not in a car. I'm very sorry for you automobile enthusiasts who expected this to be a regular thing.
CarCon comic.
Yeah. I think we've done 3, 4, maybe 8 episodes out of 418 in a car.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's like a little subgenre of Contest of Challengers.
I had an idea for a non-comics industry business podcast on the Yak Channel Podcast Network.
What's that?
But just keeping the same audience base.
Okay.
So it could be about anything, and it's called Contested Challengers.
Interesting.
So it could just be like, hey, here's my experience going to the dentist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, IRL sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be an official Contest of Challengers podcast,
No,
of course.
No.
Of course. Hey, Dal.
Patrick.
So there's something that happened in the store on Monday that I was in.
How would you know? You weren't even at the store.
I was not. I did not take part in it in any way.
It's true.
Because, as previously pointed out, I was not at the store. But you were, and
Yeah.
if I recall correctly, you corrupted the minds of young children more so than normal?
Allegedly. No, we were... Challengers as an institution was approached by a local Boy Scout troop, Cub Scout troop? One of the two. Scouts. To...
That's why I'd already written down scouts in store as opposed to what kind of scouts.
Boy or cub.
I wasn't there, and if you don't remember...
I didn't ask. We were asked if the scouts could be brought in to learn about comics and see the store, and also the scout troop was going to be purchasing some items for less privileged children.
Oh, nice.
For Easter time. And we always want to help the community in whatever way we can, so when people ask for something that's within our power to give them. It's within our power to give them. We're very interested in making that happen. So this sort of thing was asked if it could. I can't remember if they specified a day, or I think they volunteered like a Monday. And since I'm the one who works Monday, I was the one who got back to them and kept the communication going. And it was agreed that the scouts would be brought in basically after school on Monday, April 1st. And
what I find interesting about the way we do these things is that whatever day they pick, that determines who does it, based on who's working.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Thursday, then we have to make other arrangements.
Correct.
But having done that, at that point, the other person checks out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, there's somebody who is doing a podcast and was going to be in town in Chicago and wanted to talk to us, and their specified day was Monday, so I just jumped in and said, okay, how do we make this work on a Monday for you?
Did that happen, by the way?
It's happening this coming Monday,
wow.
April 8th. In my head, I thought it was the same day as the Scouts, but it's not. It's the same day as Women's Comics Night.
I see.
But anyway, the Scouts came in, and I took them over to Sidekicks and spent a few minutes kind of going over...
Did you know ahead of time what the age group was for these?
I think so. I'd have to look back through my emails, but I was pretty clear that they were going to be...
Sidekicks?
Yeah, like 8 to 12 years old, kind of in that range. I think they were mostly like 9 or 10 years old, probably. So I took them over to Sidekicks and did a little bit of like comics history, but it was all very participatory. It was a lot of like, who knows, whatever, and then kids get to raise their hands and try and answer the question.
How many kids was this?
Maybe 10 or 12?
Okay.
Less than a dozen, I think. Didn't seem like that many.
Is it okay if I just keep asking questions as they come up?
Yeah, sure.
Were they in their scout uniforms?
They were not. I don't think so. They came from school. So like there was maybe a little bit of an after-school portion, and then they brought the kids over. I asked afterwards to one of the parents who was there, is this common? Like, how often do you do these things? Is it more often in the summer, or is it... And apparently, like, once a month they do, like, an outing.
Okay.
And this was the monthly outing.
Gotcha. So they all go to the same school?
I think so, yeah. Burr Elementary, I think, maybe?
Oh, sure.
I think.
That's in the neighborhood.
Yeah, which
We've
is,
done
I think,
stuff
why
there.
they just kind of walked over afterwards. And some of them, like, they came as a group, and there were a few parents kind of watching out for them, but then more of their parents came to pick them up at the store afterwards.
Okay.
They were only at the store for, like, maybe an hour.
All right. I'm going to jump in for a second and say that we have been getting more and more requests for donations for school things. And
Well, donations in general.
right,
Yeah.
but also we get asked like school things often, and one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that we're serving our specific community. Oftentimes we'll get requests for donations at schools that are far western suburbs, far south side,
Nowhere near us.
and like they say, oh, you could give business cards or you can put stickers on the books or whatever. That's not going to help us.
No, why bother?
It's not that we're opposed to helping out these organizations. It's that we get asked so much.
Yeah.
So much. We can't say yes to everybody.
Yeah.
And we were asked by someone just this afternoon. The first thing I did was look up and say, all right, where is this school? Well, it doesn't say, because it's part of a specific organization of schools that has schools all over the city.
Mm-hmm.
This specific request was for a class in one school. And there is a school in our neighborhood part of this group, but they didn't specify what it was. And again, we've been asked so many times this year alone that we passed.
Yeah, we've been open for 11 years, and 9 or 10 years ago, we were saying yes to basically anybody who had a request for a donation. We wanted to help out. But it's, like Patrick said, reached a point where we cannot say yes to everybody and still have things left in the store to sell. Like, there are so many requests, not just from schools, but people running charity organizations, or people who want stuff for, like, local clubs, or somebody was in and, like, they just wanted stuff for their business, like, to have comics or something.
Yeah.
And that was the point in my head where I'm like, you're another business. Why are we donating to another active business? Just to give them comics? Like, no, this doesn't work anymore in my brain. But anyway, the Scouts we said yes to. And so spent about 10 or 15 minutes in Sidekicks going over kind of a history of comics, but it was based more on superhero stuff that they could sort of latch onto, and making it things where they could sort of answer questions. And, like I would say, way back in 1938, after talking about some other stuff, I said, okay, and then in 1938, first superhero was created. Does anybody know who that was? And
Doc Savage.
Kids are raising their hands, and you point to them, and they go, Batman. Like, no, it wasn't Batman. You? Spider-Man. Nope, not Spider-Man. And then you go, okay, it was... And you? Superman. Yes, it's Superman. There you go. And you go into a little bit about Superman and all that sort of stuff. And you bring it up to the present where you can talk about Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Avengers and stuff like that. And then open it up to questions. Kids had a bunch of questions about different superheroes and things they'd heard, and questions about stuff in the room.
Were the questions about the superheroes things like who's stronger, or
no,
who'd win in a fight?
No, it wasn't stuff like that. It was more like, how old is this character, and
neat.
And then it reached a point where the questions were just things they knew.
Who is Nate Gray?
That weren't even questions. Like, one was just like, my dad works on, like, movies. Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
All right, great. After that was over...
But who do you think he could beat in a fight, kid?
After that was over, the kids were supposed to pick out stuff under a certain budget for the kids, the underprivileged kids' Easter baskets. And they had not names, but they had, like, this is a, 10-year-old girl. This is an 8-year-old boy. So they were sort of picking stuff out in, like, some of it was Sidekicks, but most of it was, like, the 99-cent back issues.
Yeah.
Because they had only a few dollars to sort of spend.
Yeah, I thought they would have gone for the dollar rack right away.
They did some. And then it was everything got brought up to the front counter, and I was sort of helping one of the parents figure out, like, okay, well, what age group is this for? This is maybe not a good choice. This one, that sort of thing. Like, somebody had brought up, like, an old Amaze Inc. Love and Tights issue. And I had to go, I don't know. And I looked through it, and it's like, it's not that it's bad content-wise. I just don't think it would really be something that, like, a 9-year-old kid is going to get a lot out of. Like, a random issue of a superhero romance comic from slave labor Amaze Inc. Like, this one I'm going to put back. And then I'd also brought up from our back some of our leftover Free Comic Book Day comics, to sort of, like, toss a few extra ones in to
bulk out the back. But Dale, Free Comic Book Day is coming up. What are you talking about?
I know, and I just gave them away.
So Barrier? Everybody got Barrier?
Everybody got Barrier.
Everybody got Barrier and 3D Cowboys, whatever that was. 3D Convicts. Sorry.
And then, since I didn't know how many, like, baskets they'd be putting together, I brought up way too many comics. So after putting the right ones with the right piles, I had some leftovers, so I left those on the counter and let each of the scouts take one on the way out.
How nice of you.
And I also left Free Comic Book Day flyers on the same counter to go, hey, tell your parents. Bring it back on May 4th. You can get some more free comics. Yeah, and then eventually parents started to show up and take their kids out. There was, I guess, one kid who kind of not got forgotten about, but, like, the parents, they had to...
do something else first?
The other adults who were left over had to kind of wrangle the parents a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Why aren't you picking up your child yet? Why are we still here with your kid? But someone came and picked them up, and it was all fine.
740.
No, but I mean, I got a little worried of, like, you're making sure all these kids are gone, right? I'm not responsible for these kids.
When the parents would come get him, would the kid just like run outside because they got a text or a call, or would the parents come in, maybe look around?
The parents would come in, but there was one point where like an adult had to get out of the parents' car to come in and get the kid because the parent was like double parked because it was 5 o'clock at night and there was nowhere to park.
Sure, I just want to know that some of them bothered to
all of the parents otherwise
understand
came
what
in.
the location was about.
Yeah. And we sold some other stuff, like some of the parents who came in got their kids some other things.
Cool.
One of them got just a stack of graphic novels from Sidekicks for them and their sister.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's realistically a main reason we do these things.
Yeah, the hope is that we're introducing the store to children and parents who will want to get other things at a later date. You know, it's nice to have it be something where the kids are entertained or they learn something from it. And I mean, I don't know kids that well. I don't have kids of my own, so a lot of it is taking it on faith that this is actually something that they're enjoying or that they're interested in, that it's not boring to them. So I was grateful that one of the parents came back a couple days later to say thanks and to say that the kids had a great time and that they learned a lot. And I want to believe that's true. I'm going to believe that she was being honest.
You heard from multiple people that it was well done.
I did, so I'm glad for that. It's not something I do a lot, and the weirdest thing was that, I don't know if this is a weird thing to talk about, but I was a little nervous beforehand of kind of what I would talk to these kids about. I don't have like a prepared speech to give. And not knowing who was going to be there and how busy I'd be doing other stuff, I kind of didn't know what to do. And like 4 or 5 days before the event, I basically had a dream where I gave a presentation to the scouts. Like my anxiety did a thing in my brain where it's like, let's solve this problem.
So that's the one you gave?
That's the one I gave. I'm like, oh, that actually works pretty well. So that was the one I gave, and it worked pretty well. So
see, in my dreams,
thank you, anxiety dreams.
In my dreams,
solving problems.
I write full novels, but of course don't remember them because I didn't actually write them.
Then they're in a library somewhere in the dreaming. Yeah, it was.
Goodness.
It worked out. I think it worked out pretty well. Hopefully the kids had an okay time, and the parents seemed like it was fine, and nothing went wrong. So yeah, I guess it was mission accomplished.
Over the past 11 years, we've done this kind of thing often, and not often, but regularly whenever people ask.
Yeah, we used to do stuff like off-site events. We used to do like library things.
Sure. I mean, we're not opposed to doing those again, but
the opportunity
my point was when groups of students come in, I love it when they all come armed with like $5 or something to get something out of it. But what I've done at least twice, because sometimes over the summer we just get a group of summer school kids or something coming in with no warning.
Right.
So we just suddenly, an adult or two show up with like 15 or 20 kids.
Yeah.
And twice in the history of doing these types of events, they're like, hey, we were wondering if you could take some time to like show them around. I'm like, absolutely. Ashley?
That's great.
I think Ashley's done it once and Sam has done it once.
Yeah. I remember having to do it a few times when we had the gallery running. Because there'd be like art schools and stuff that would bring students in for like a night to look at the art and then talk about comic art as an industry, as a medium, all that sort of stuff.
Do you remember the time that we had a group of students come in unexpectedly when Kyle Higgins was signing? So he wound up giving an impromptu, like, this is how you write for comics speech.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it turned out pretty well. I think he was happy with it. It's interesting because you can always see the kids that are enthralled versus the kids that don't want to be there. But all of them find a thing in the store that they like.
Yeah, and this was a group of 10-year-olds, I think. So they were exactly the right age to be excited about superheroes. And again, I kind of formatted what I was going to talk about for not only, specifically the superhero stuff that they could latch onto a little bit more, but also like leave room for questions. So anything they wanted to talk about so they could feel like they were engaged in it. It was fun to do. I don't know that I want to do it on a regular basis, but I enjoy doing it occasionally.
Well, you talk about enthralling people in comics, and segue alert. Oh man, that should be a bingo topic. The segue. A very blatant, obvious, called-out segue.
Yeah, in case anyone didn't listen to the previous episode of Contest of Challengers, we have Contest Challengers bingo now. If you go to the previous episode page on the Challengers website, what episode would that have been?
That would have been episode 417.
Yeah, there should be a link to generate your own custom online Contest of Challengers bingo card.
If I remember, I'll put it in this link as well.
Sure, okay.
Because we haven't heard any feedback from anyone about it.
Somebody made a joke about it when they came in.
Did they? Okay.
So I know at least they were aware of it from the episode, but I don't know if people know that it's real and not just a joke we make?
You know what? I did have a question that I don't know if I should say it while people are listening.
Yeah, go ahead.
But it's a button you push that generates a bingo card.
Correct.
What's to stop you from just pushing it over and over and over until you find one that gives you bingo?
You could, but if you want to go to that much trouble...
Yeah, but if we're giving out a monetary reward...
Well, if it happens too fast...
Yeah.
Then we're not going to give out a monetary reward anymore. Someone's going to win it one time, and then we're going to be like, well, you game the system. Good job.
So I did it. I generated a card, and I played along for last week's episode.
Yeah, how'd you do?
And there were 8 of the squares...
Checked off?
Checked off.
Is that counting the free space?
No.
So 9 with the free space?
Yeah. Okay. Nowhere near bingo, but 9 out of, what is it? 20? 16?
No, it's over
25?
It's over
25.
It's over
5 by 5?
25.
Okay. Over 25?
Yeah, well, 24 is how many squares there are plus the
Right.
free space.
Okay,
which is
that's
1.
what I mean.
But I mean,
so,
of the like options, there are probably 27 or 28.
Right, but my point is, on the 24 that were generated, 23 minus the free one.
24 plus the free one.
Oh, wait. Okay. We only covered 8 of the 24 that were on my card. So it's not necessarily easy to win this bingo.
There's a thing on the generator side where it tells you how likely you are to get a bingo, like how many things you'd have to call out before, and it depends on how many players are playing and how many things you call out.
At least 4.
It's not super easy to get
Yeah.
bingo. A lot of people would have to be playing for someone to get a bingo very quickly.
Well, anyway, we've gone so far away from my segue that I can't do it anymore.
Sorry, segue
But
alert.
Did you hear about...
Speaking of hearing things.
You're listening to a podcast. Speaking of listening, did you hear about Coliseum of Comics has a new program that they're introducing to the industry as a whole, and it's called something like the
Free Comic Wednesdays.
Comics Omnivore.
No, what's that?
It's interesting, and I think it plays off of a thing that we are doing right now. But it's not, I mean, I'm not saying that they were inspired by us in any way.
No.
But the point of the phrase Comics Omnivore comes from one of their employees. That's how he described himself. Mm-hmm. Like his reading habits, he just reads any comics. He reads them all. But the Omnivore, I'm going to call it the Omnivore Club, which is not what they called it, but the Omnivore program is basically the industry as a whole picks a title, an issue, a single issue, preferably a number 1.
Okay.
And initially this is going to be monthly, then maybe bi-weekly. We'll see how it goes. And everybody pushes the crap out of it.
So like one book, one city. Do you know that program?
No.
Basically everyone in Chicago reads one book.
Oh, okay. Yes, but this is industry-wide. The criteria for publishers, though, if it's your book, it has to be returnable.
Okay.
The criteria for stores, there's no buy-in, but they strongly suggest everybody offer it at $1 off cover price.
Oh, nope. Don't want to do that.
That's a significant...
I mean, if you want to offer it returnable, I think, from my experience, that works great. But let's sell it for less. Let's not sell it for less.
Yeah.
Let's pretend the cover price actually means something instead of is just some fantasy figure that can be anything.
Yeah, we don't... That is...
Why this industry is so frantic to mark down its product, never know.
Well, that's because it's so
Never know.
frantic to mark up its product.
I guess.
We were offered this week the opportunity to do a very low-run exclusive cover to a book, and it just doesn't make financial sense. We'd be paying upwards of $6 a copy, and the publisher had said, well, a lot of stores sell this for like $15 to $20 a copy. We hate doing that.
Yeah, a lot of stores do a lot of things I don't like.
Especially because the regular price of this book is $4.
Yeah. I
don't want to charge people $15 to $20 for a thing just because it says Challengers.
Yeah.
Unless it's a t-shirt, and even the t-shirts, we know we charge more for shirts than a lot of places do, but that's because it's reflected in what we have to pay.
Yeah, most of the Detective Comics 1000 exclusive covers, stores, the people who commission them, we're charging anywhere between like $20 and $25. I think generally, maybe more for like limited edition versions of the same covers.
Sure,
but
because you have the option of getting the regular, like your cover full color and logoed, your cover virgin with just a little type at the bottom, your cover black and white.
Right. But
Like you can only do that.
the base level seemed to be double cover price, or double the normal cover price for Detective Comics 1000, and that's I get why that happens. Like I know the financials, I know how much it costs to do those, I get it. I still don't like it.
Right. While I lost it, I don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, if you look at the Little Bird contest we had with All Star, which is technically still going on, however, we've sold out, and we still have 3 copies on hold.
Is it 3?
Well, we had 5, and then 2 people bought them on Wednesday. Is it more?
It might be 2.
Okay.
I think it might be less.
Okay. Well, maximum of 3.
Sure, okay.
On hold. And All-Star and Challengers each started with the same amount of copies. Mm-hmm. So, as of right now, we may be winning, but it's not a sellout for us because we still have a couple of club members that have them on hold. And that could be our undoing.
It could be. Look, if it gets to that point, I will make some phone calls. I will put some pressure on some subscribers to go, you got to pay for these books over the phone right now. Right now, today.
I was going to say, if it gets to that point, we deserve to lose. But the point of this is that Little Bird #1 is a book that I loved, you liked.
I love the art. I did not love the story.
Sure.
There's a bunch of things, and I feel like I can say this now because we've sold all of our copies off the shelf, so it doesn't really matter. I found some of the elements of the story kind of basic. Just the idea of, like, America becomes a theocratic dictatorship that's trying to crush the plucky Canadian, and it's just like, plot-wise, I've already checked out of what you're trying to tell me. I feel like I've read that story 100 times, and it's not clever anymore, the whole, like, but what if America got worse? Like, all right, great. Yeah, all right, thanks. But the artwork is gorgeous, and I love what Ian Bertram's doing with it, and that got me through a lot of the story where if the art had been not as good, I would have probably pushed back on let's do a contest for this.
Sure. And that's why I at least, like, watching you pitch it to people, mm-hmm. You would upplay the art.
I think the art is far and away the best thing about it. Like,
but the point I'm trying to make is that if not for this contest, we would have maybe ordered a quarter of what we did.
I could see like 30%.
Okay, but I mean,
because I think it was still returnable from Image,
right? But assuming that wasn't a factor,
sure, okay.
Assuming this is a standard Image #1 where all the risk is ours,
we would definitely not have ordered nearly as much as we did. Oh my God, no!
Right, yeah. but I mean, like, not even maybe a quarter, if that.
Sure,
but it did really well.
Yeah, and people really responded to it.
And it did well on the merit of the book. There may be a handful of people that were buying it just to help us out in this contest, and I'd made a point of saying that, to my knowledge, only one Challenger's customer bought multiple copies.
Sure, and I never push the contest when I talk about...
definitely not.
It was never a thing of like, help us win this contest. You know, it was always,
hey, this book is great.
Here's a book, you might like it. Here's why you might like it, and here's like the guarantee we're giving it in case you don't like it.
Yeah, and Dal always the money back guarantee was the last thing he would say.
Yeah,
because that's the least important part of the pitch. The pitch is you're going to love this book. You're going to enjoy this book. You're going to be happy you bought this book.
Yeah. And the fact that people have added it to their subscription list afterwards or told us specifically that they enjoyed it is because they read the book and they enjoyed it, not because they got a sweet deal or because they're helping us with a contest or because we pushed them into it.
But so I made a point of saying that we only had one person that we know of buy 2 copies, mm-hmm. and also to keep a level playing field, neither you nor I bought copies. Mm-hmm. Like none of us bought copies.
No.
So we're not inflating our end. Because we had somebody on the All-Star side say, hey, Mitch, how many copies do I have to buy to catch up? Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, man, if that's what you got to do to win this, go ahead.
Sure.
And that person said, well, I already bought 2, but because I'm that guy.
Okay.
But, that's fine. But the point is, far and away the majority of the people that are buying this are buying it because they like it.
Yeah.
And then
it looks good. I think people pick it up and flip through it and they go, this looks good. I want to buy this.
I really like your social media post about Invisible Kingdom saying, hey, now that Little Bird is done, here's another book that we have faith in and it looks good.
Yeah, that was one alongside Assassination, which were practically sold out of, so that really doesn't need a push.
Right.
That we felt like In the Shadow of Little Bird maybe didn't get enough attention. Those were 3 books that were coming out in like a couple week period.
Yeah, 3 books in 2 weeks.
That we wanted to push all of them, but as we've talked about before, it's difficult to really give every book a push. You kind of have to pick a couple, and Invisible Kingdom was one we promoted. We definitely kept it as a pick of the week, and we kept it right up in the first issue section, but we didn't really push it in the same way that we did Little Bird. And I wanted to do something where it was like, hey, there's this other good book that has been getting good reviews, and I think has a ton to recommend it. But yeah, we haven't told you about it because we've been doing this other thing.
And it's, again, I'm going to complain that Image released both Assassination and Little Bird #1 on the same week, when the week before it had no new #1s. This last week had no new #1s for them.
I don't know if we should mention this, but I'll risk it.
Okay.
A thing we were told from, I think, a couple people was basically that Skybound does what Skybound's going to do, and Image does what Image is going to do.
Yeah, but
so I don't know if Skybound knew or cared that Little Bird was coming out.
But Image should know that Assassination was coming out.
Maybe.
Ultimately, there should be somebody who communicates between both branches.
I would hope, but it sounds like that's not the case.
It ultimately, I think it was a disservice to those 2 books because, and like you said, we're almost out of Assassination, but we ordered double of Little Bird because of the contest.
That's true.
We still ordered very high in Assassination because I thought it was great.
We believe in it, yeah.
And, people may remember who shop in the store that we had 3 call-out sheets for those 3 books on the counter for a while. And I like when there are books that are that exciting that we get to push. I don't like it when it's weeks where like, oh, God, what's going to be the Challenger's Choice this week?
Yeah.
And there's nothing to hang your hat on. Like, one of the things that I feel over the years is we've almost lost credibility because there just hasn't been books that we can rally around as a store.
You say that, but I think there are. I know what you're saying. Like, since we've been selling so well on Little Bird, it really made me think, like, God, why don't we do this all the time? Why are we constantly pushing books? Like, it can make a difference and it can do well, but there needs to be that convergence of events where it's the right book at the right time that we can get behind and it all works.
Right.
And that does happen, but it doesn't happen every week. It happens a few times a year. And it's happened recently. Like, Infidel sold great in the single issues and sells incredibly well in trade because that's one that we can put on the front table, we can promote, when people come in, they're like, what's good?
No,
you can go Infidel and they can look at it and go, this looks great, or we can pitch it.
It sold poorly in singles. It was single digits for us.
Well, the problem was it sold great to start.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't get issue 1 anymore.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, this is our level, and it's only going to drop from here because all comic sales drop.
But anyway, yes, Infidel as a trade, perfect example.
Yeah, and there's other things. It's just, it's not an industry necessarily where every single week there's the sort of what a movie would term like a 4-quadrant hit, where everybody can pick it up and read it and enjoy it. Like, Little Bird was a thing that there were people who were getting like Batman comics that I'm like, hey, if you're looking for something new to read, check this out. The art's great. It's a dystopian sci-fi adventure comic. Oversized first issue is only $3.99.
But instead of being about family, it's about... Oh, wait, no,
that's a different pitch.
That's different.
And people did. They picked it up. They were responding to it. Unfortunately, it is kind of rare that sort of book comes out where you can... Like, Saga was the same way. Saga is the archetypal version of that book, where you could literally hand Saga to everybody who was coming in when Saga 1 came out, and they'd want to buy it, because it was that good, and it's shown that it's that good by consistently selling insane numbers. 5-6 years later?
Yeah.
And the trades are still selling every single week.
From what I've been hearing from other stores, Little Bird is having the same effect on many, many stores around the country.
Which is great.
Right. And part of me is like, oh, that was our special thing. But no, I mean, one of the reasons it's working is because of how good it is.
Yeah.
And how it resonates with a lot of different people. I don't feel that we don't push enough books. I just, like you said, it's got to be a convergence of things, and it's got to work out.
Yeah, and we're always on the lookout for those things. Like, it's difficult sometimes to find exactly the right book that's going to appeal to a lot of people. We've pushed plenty of things over 11 years that just had no traction. Nobody cared but us. I was remarking to you that there's like books like, and I don't want to single out a publisher, but books like Smooth Criminal and Avant-Gardes, we are subscriber only, and all of the subscribers are people who work at Challengers. Like those seem like exactly the books where it's like everybody, like 3 or 4 people who work at Challengers love these books enough to buy them when they could just read them, but they want to own them, and yet we can't successfully pitch it to people. No one cares. So it's just because we like it doesn't mean we can sell it. Otherwise, we'd be stocking 100 issues a month at Nights at the Dinner Table
or Kaiju Max.
Yeah. But we can, sometimes, the right book at the right time that we're excited about connects with people. And Kaiju Max is one that, maybe single issues we don't sell super great on, but we've sold well over 100 copies of the first volume of Kaiju Max since it came out.
We did.
That's great.
We did real well with the first issue of the series, but that's because we had Xander Cannon out, and
I mean, it still sells. We still push it. But
But our monthly sub numbers for it are...
It's not great.
Forgive the pun, subpar.
Yeah, and...
Great, if you look at a lot of other titles that we carry.
And the rack sales are not good.
But not what we would want for a book that we love so much.
I told a bunch of people at C2E2, pound for pound, I think the best book on the market is Kaiju Max.
Yeah.
I think that is the most reliable, sequentially released comic book.
And that's not even talking about how great the hardcover is and how heavy it was.
Yeah.
Pound for pound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're always on the lookout for it, and I'm sure a couple more times in 2019 there will be a book that we hugely get behind that resonates with people.
But I like the idea of this comic omnivore program. Maybe not all the specifics, but I like the idea of collectively saying, hey, as a community, as retailers and publishers, if we can all agree to focus on a title like this.
Yeah, I like the thought behind it. I mean, the idea of let's all as an industry push something. I don't know that I always 100% agree with what the industry thinks is a book.
I think it's a hard time. I think it's a hard call to get a book that everyone agrees on.
Yeah, because I guarantee you sometimes it's going to be like this new Marvel miniseries, and it's like, I don't believe in that book. I don't think it's one worth checking out, and I don't think it's one worth promoting at the expense of other books that I think would do better at Challengers,
Sure.
And at the same time, there's things where we'll push something that we believe in that connects with people, and then we'll hear from other retailers, I can't sell that in my store.
Yeah, I mean, creators themselves hear that in their stores. I was listening to Matthew Rosenberg on this week's episode of the Off-Panel podcast with David Harper, and Matthew Rosenberg used to work at Forbidden Planet in New York, and 2 separate things. One was he had wanted to see if he could actually make an impact on a title that they had that he thought was good, that was underserved, and he chose the Josh Dysart for Unknown Soldier. I was going to say Forbidden Soldier. Mm-hmm. That's a different thing.
Yes.
An Unknown Soldier graphic novel. And he started pushing it, and it like he got a lot of people to buy it, so much so that DC noticed, like, hey, this one store keeps reordering all these quantities. But it's it's you.
They get that phone call from their Diamond rep where it's like, did you mean to order? Yes, I meant to order that. Yes.
Yeah. But also at the same time, as a creator, he would call stores and say, hey, I've got this book coming out from Black Mask, whether it be We Can Never Go Home or Four Kids Walking to a Bank or what have you. And he'd have to do the struggling creator phone call of, here's why I think you should carry my book.
The cold call.
And have to deal with a lot of stores that just said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's very tough. But he'd said one of the things that somebody said was, why should I stock your book? And he said, because I'm calling you. I'm talking to you about it. I believe in it. And I'm putting forth this effort to convey to you what this book means.
I can sort of understand. It's a sort of tactless question to pose to a creator who's cold calling you like that, but I can understand where that retailer's coming from. Like the idea of, I believe in this. What am I supposed to tell a customer that?
Yeah.
Matthew Rosenberg believes in the book?
I think every creator should believe in their books. I mean, there's plenty of books I've read that I don't believe in, but I didn't make
his
them.
His answer might as well have been because it's really good. I absolutely believe you that you think that. Like, Of course you do. like that is not something I can... How am I promoting that to a customer? Like, again, like not to lean on the Little Bird thing, but there's ways of promoting that book where it's, it would mean a lot to us if you bought it. We'd like to win this contest. Chicago Pride. That's all stuff that we care about. Why would someone who's spending $3.99 care about any of that? Why would I expect them to?
To recap, Little Bird started out the same way. we got an email from Darcy Van Polgeest saying, hey, here's this book I'm doing, here's what it's about, here's Ian Bertram, and here is a PDF. Now, it happened to be, like, it showed up in the middle of the night, and I was in bed, but I was on my phone, because that's what I do, like everybody.
Like everyone with a bed and a phone.
I didn't immediately read the issue, but I immediately responded because, oops, there go my notes. I can't talk and get my notes at the same time. Don't worry, everybody. Got my notes back. Right here. That's them.
That's the noise.
They're not notes for the podcast. They're notes of the podcast. Anyway, I responded right away and said, hey, thanks so much for the email. We appreciate it when people reach out. And I know that Image lets creators have their email list, which we're part of. And I know that it's in, like, we don't do this function in our weekly newsletter, but you can auto-generate the name based on, whatever protocols you have in the system.
I mean, I'd love it if Comics Week could do that.
Our MailChimp could, but I choose not to.
Yeah. Comics Week can't. I mean,
But so it said, like, hey, challengers, blah, 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 blah. So, I appreciate the little touch or whatever. But I emailed back and said, hey, thanks so much. I appreciate when creators do this. And then he got back to me right away saying, because I said, like, hey, I'm not going to read it right now because, it's 4 a.m. or whatever it was. It wasn't 4 a.m. It was closer to 2. I don't know why I thought it would sound cooler if it was 4 a.m. But he said, hey, let me know what you think. So automatically I feel like, all right, I now have to read this to follow up because of this exchange. So I did, and then I liked it, and then I got back to him and said, hey, I really like this. It's very cool. So honestly, that is what got the ball rolling. And then when it was, talking to Mitchell from All Star that this contest came out of, but it got a little extra attention already because of the creator cold email, if you will.
Yeah, the zero issue to that story was my first exposure was in the solicit text for Little Bird.
Oh yeah.
Where I don't know if it was Image or Darcy.
Podcast listeners will remember this.
But it was like, this is not the exact wording, but the gist of it was like Akira meets Saga, and I thought it was the most laughably, unfortunately pretentious description you could ever give.
It was Saga meets East of West. Because it was two Image books.
It was Akira was in there.
It? Okay.
And I'm just like...
But it was definitely
You
East
are
of West
calling
as well.
out Akira and Saga as what your book is like? Jesus Christ, is that aiming high? Is that putting a lot of pressure on that book to deliver something as good as maybe the most famous manga in North America and one of the most successful creator-owned projects of the last 20 years? Really? That's where you want to aim? I thought it was ballsy and hilarious and really, really frustrating.
Well, it's what you do. Let's say you're a band and you're promoting your new album. Your new album is always a cross between A, your best-selling album, and B, your most critically acclaimed album.
There's a Sharpling and Worcester bit where Tom Sharpling is talking to an upcoming musician who's got a new album coming out that they'd love to get him to play. And Tom's like, well, what's your sound like? I don't think I've ever heard of you. And, like, the description was, like, Nirvana meets Velvet Underground meets the Beatles and it was just like 5 of the most famous and influential bands of the last 100 years. He's like, wow. And then they play the song and it's the most like mediocre, middle of the road, like completely forgettable, bottom of the top 400 kind of music. And it's like, none of that is in there. None of what you said is in that song that you played.
But really, what can you do to get a retailer's attention to look at your book?
You're not wrong.
It doesn't matter who is publishing it now.
I would maybe disagree with that just on the basis of maybe there are such things as bad publicity. Like when my first exposure to your book is like, brass balls on you to say that your book by an artist who I like Ian Bertram. I'd already seen his stuff other places, so I knew that he was talented. I really love the art on House of Penance, which I keep forgetting that I want to put that like on a kind of a spotlight thing to go, hey, y'all who are reading Little Bird, do you like the art? Here's a 5-issue thing that you can pick up. But by a writer who, like, it was like acclaimed playwright or screenwriter, and I'm like, who is this? And I had to look up, I'm like, I don't know anything he's done. This is incredibly high praise for, like, if Brian K. Vaughan, when he was launching Saga, wanted to make some crazy-ass comparisons, I'd be like, well, this is the guy who did Why the Last Man.
Right.
Sure, okay, fine. But when it's someone who's like, I don't know if you want to hang Akira and Saga on your book. Like, that's maybe asking a bit much. But no, there was something else that was like East of West meets something else from Image, and I'm like, whoever is writing these needs to stop writing them, because it's unfortunate.
I mean, to saying the buzzwords.
I guess.
How many times has a publisher launched a series by calling it like the best-selling series, blah blah blah? I'm like, your book hasn't come out yet.
Sure.
You can't say that.
No.
What backs that
the
up?
new hit book, like, it's not a hit. You haven't sold a single copy yet.
Do you remember? There's another comic store that had a early web store in the nascent days of the internet, where they had an award like on their website, like, hey, #1 in customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And we dug into it and said, well, from who? And the ultimate answer was, no, we just put that up there.
Sure. What's currently Raffaello's, that used to be Plazio's, would have a thing on their banner that was like, best pizza in Chicago. Like, but who claimed that?
Exactly.
Who claimed that Plazio's?
Every local pizza place has a best slice in town.
Uh-huh.
Said owner's mother.
Yeah, don't put it in quotes, because
Yeah.
no one who's qualified to judge pizza said that.
I mean, can you get away with if it's who said this is the best pizza in town? Oh, there you go, best pizza in town, right there in quotes. Or do you have to put quotes ellipsis?
Uh-huh.
Best pizza in town.
Or just put the question mark in at the end.
Best pizza in town.
Best pizza in town.
My goodness. I wanted to briefly. Actually, no. I'm going to let you mention it. How? No, I'm looking at you, not over there.
Okay.
Look. The audience is here, Dal.
Got it.
No, the audience is everywhere.
Uh-oh.
Right before we started recording, you were talking about a change Marvel had made in a book that came out.
Yeah. One of the things on our subscriber info now on order page was something I thought seemed pretty cool in the Marvel previews. And it's Marvel reprinting a bunch of Jim Lee X-Men stories, but in a substantially larger format. They're calling the book Jim Lee XXL.
Is it like those colossal Kirby book size?
I don't remember seeing the exact size, but I think it's supposed to be like a much bigger hardcover. So maybe something on the size of like the Grand Design books, that kind of thing. Maybe.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure. But it's larger. It's a much larger format, bigger than comic size. They're blowing it up so readers can see it full size. Big, big, big. And it was $50, and we had someone order it, and then we had Marvel send us an email today, and buried in all of their various announcements, so way down near the bottom, was an announcement that the $50 hardcover was now $100.
And when they do this, they don't have to make it returnable because they're telling us ahead of time.
Yep.
FOCs haven't happened. We still have a chance to adjust orders.
Hilariously, one of the things they also had to update on was, I guess, maybe a misprint.
Yeah.
Was that the FOC date was not August 19th, it was May 9th. So, yeah, since they're doing it before May 9th, there you go.
And you had said, well, maybe it was a typo. And I'd said, $100 versus $50. That's not a typo. That is outright wrong information.
Yeah.
And it is ballsy of them, which seems to be a theme in this episode, to double the price. And I will occasionally make typos when ordering from Diamond on our monthly order catalog. For example, we got an email from a customer service rep, not ours, because the one we just got 2 weeks ago is already gone from the company.
15 days
Yeah.
is when we got the email from... The first email was, hi, I'm your new rep. And 15 days later was the, hi, this is Diamond Comics. You don't have a rep anymore.
Yep.
Your rep doesn't work for the company anymore.
But that's
Cool.
not a record. We've had a much shorter turnaround.
It's still fun to get.
I'm going off topic a little bit here, but I've surmised that there shouldn't be assigned store reps anymore. It should just be an open pool.
Like a pool of people.
Yeah, and just
Call
whoever.
up, you get somebody.
Yeah, you get a ticket. Whoever calls, you get that person. They fix it and move on. So it's not.
I really believe, and I think I said this in a way that you thought I was joking, but I really believe you should give that to Diamond.
Okay.
You should put that in the suggestion box and go, like, do it this way.
I will.
Because the days, like, 20 years ago when you had a customer service rep, like, you didn't have access to Diamond's database. So having somebody that you could have a relationship with, that knew your store, that knew what kind of stuff you got, was really valuable. Nowadays, all of our stuff is automated. Like,
Yeah.
we submit our orders digitally, we do our final order cutoffs digitally, we submit shortage, overage, damage reports digitally. We're not talking to someone who's giving us like, hey, by the way, you should be getting more Batmans or whatever. Like, even that is automatically generated and sent to us from Diamond. Here's stores that are at your discount tier are usually ordering this number of this book. This is what you ordered.
Way back in the day, we used to get weekly phone calls from like DC Comics saying, hey, do you want to reorder anything? You know, this is what we have specials on. How's business? Blah, blah, blah. But once we started using Comic Suite, that became unnecessary.
Yeah. And now, when we were doing orders with Southern Hobby, who's our like supply and game and some toy distributor, we would do the same thing where every Wednesday we would talk to our rep and here's what came in and here's what's on order and here's, do you guys want to do this? And sometimes we'd get special phone calls of, hey, this new Hasbro thing is on order. Do you want to order this? Now we do all that through the website too. So when they call up, it's like, we don't have to give you a list of things we want. We already ordered it.
And then 5 more things come on the invoice that we didn't know about. But so a lot of it is I mean, I'm not...
So having a personal rep at Diamond doesn't mean
as much
anymore.
as it used to. Yeah, I don't know what... The only time you really want a personal rep is when you have a very specific to you problem that you want solved, and you could put like a little more like, well, you know, help us out kind of thing.
Yeah, almost every time that we've had a problem like that and we haven't had access to our rep, Diamond's figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, the other reps are good at their jobs.
Because they stay. They've lasted long enough to understand what's happening. Anyway, we got an email from a Diamond rep saying, did you really mean to order 115 copy of Sharky Bounty Hunter number whatever?
Well, technically that was not their email. Their email was, hey, you reduced your number crazy low. Did you mean to only order 8? Because you had 115 on order.
Okay.
And it was us saying, yeah. And I did not give them the longer story of, we only ever meant to order 15.
But I double-typed the 1, so it came out 115. And thanks to FOC, we could cut that 15 down to 8.
I saw that and I went, wait, we only ever really sell about, 7 to 10 copies of Sharky. Why did Patrick want 115 copies of issue 4? That seems like a lot.
Because it's returnable now.
That seems like a lot.
So my point is, that is a typo.
Yeah.
Accidentally hitting one number twice. Like, I have... on the iPad, I used to have a lot of trouble if there were double numbers. Like, I was ringing up $11.99 for a credit card customer.
Sure.
Tapping the 1 twice and the 9 twice, sometimes it wouldn't register the second tap because it's too fast. Mm-hmm. That's a typo. Well, that's a mechanical typo, but still.
Manual error.
Yeah. Typing 115 instead of 15, that's a typo. Typing 50 instead of 100, that is not a typo. That is a change of information.
Yeah, they'll never tell us, but I'm kind of curious if it was, like, was their math wrong to begin with, or did they just decide, like, let's do it in this other format and now we can charge double the price? Like, was it a late decision or was it an early error? That's what I'm curious about, but we'll never know.
There are a lot more speculators in the industry today, and there's a lot more websites and apps and places on the internet that tell you what are the hot books are going to be. And last week, were you going to jump in?
I was, but I don't know if it's where you're going, but I'll just jump in and say there was a store that in their email to customers did a really funny thing where they basically did this review of Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
But they basically stealth called out all of the speculators.
Oh, yeah?
For kind of ruining what's a really good book.
No, I didn't hear this at all, so please.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to name the store or not?
The Old Place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't read it.
Okay, yeah.
Go on.
And I thought that was, I mean, that's the whole story, is just that I was really gratified that they were willing to, in their email, do a thing that's basically like, stop speculating on this book and actually read it because it's really good. Like, you're never going to read it because that would ruin the value.
Right.
But this is one of the best books that Marvel's publishing right now. So just read it. Read this comic book.
But
I applaud them for doing that. I thought it was really good.
The speculative interest in the most recent issue had to deal with what people assumed was the return of a character who technically returned the issue before, but also because of that, the 1 in 25 or whatever variant cover had ridiculous traction on eBay ahead of time of like $75 to $150. Mm-hmm. And then a second print was immediately announced before the first print came out, and Marvel then announced a second print of the variant cover which in itself was already going for $70 on eBay.
I still don't understand how that market works. How are people not getting burned enough to stop doing that? How is it possible that everyone involved in that is either making money or happy with the result? I don't understand it. I wish someone could make like a chart of how that part of the market is surviving.
Yeah, how does the end user justify the price they're paying for that book? If the people that are buying it are only buying it to immediately flip it, I mean, it's when people don't do it as much, but occasionally someone come in and say, what's the most valuable comic book you have? Or is this going to be worth any money? I'm like, if I knew that, I wouldn't sell it to you. I'd just keep it for myself.
People want to talk
That's
about
not what I'm doing.
People want to talk about bubbles bursting and all that, but to me the better comparison is in pyramid schemes, they can't work forever because eventually the people at the bottom run out of people to put beneath them in the pyramid and they get screwed. And then it all falls apart. They cannot work forever. So I don't understand how this part of the market is still finding new people to put at the bottom of the pyramid. I don't get it.
I was actually happy that Immortal Hulk didn't have the thing, like didn't call out the thing that people thought was happening, but had a whole different thing at the end, which I love.
Oh, it was a really good issue.
But is not anything that'll inflate the value of that book.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand how any of this is working. Like,
No.
I wish that it was just a matter of the book is really good and that's why it's hot, but it's hot in a way where it doesn't feel like that's the thing. It feels like it's the standard swarm mentality of everyone's decided this book is hot, ergo it's hot, which is why Marvel's smartly taking advantage of this market and reprinting every single goddamn issue of Immortal Hulk, because if this market's going to be dumb about it and buy multiple quantities of every single thing that comes out, sure, make your money off of them.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to get mad at the publishers when it's like, this is the end user. Like, this is not even stores saying, we got to find some way to take advantage of this. These are people who are just really insane about what they're buying and how they're spending their money. And I don't know. I mean, like, I'm past the point of saying the market needs to correct their behavior. These are people, grown adults making decisions. They're bad decisions, but I can't stop them from making bad decisions. That is well beyond my responsibility as a retailer.
So in the sales hierarchy of Marvel at our store, the A-list sales books for us that are just Marvel books would be Amazing Spider-Man, Avengers, up till recently Thor. The B-list would be like Uncanny, and Immortal Hulk is definitely edging up the higher end of the B-list.
Yeah, Fantastic Four maybe.
Yeah.
Not Iron Man.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other books.
But
Ms. Marvel still does well.
Yeah, it could be in the B-list as well. My point is, Immortal Hulk does well for us, not as well as we think it should, but we've
sold out of every issue that we've got.
We keep upping numbers, and maybe because of that, we didn't immediately sell out of Immortal Hulk on Wednesday, and we had a decent number on the shelf at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Even though Tuesday you'd gotten a call for the variant cover.
Yeah.
But no one just says, hey, you're going to have Immortal Hulk 16 variant cover.
Oh, they always got to lead you in on it.
Yeah, do you carry Immortal Hulk? Yep. Will you have number 16 tomorrow? Yeah, we sure will. All of the covers?
Uh-huh.
All of the covers.
Yes, all of the covers.
Just ask your question.
Say you want the 1 in 25 variant.
Yeah.
And same thing, like, I remember looking at the end of Major X #1 Tuesday night when we'd gotten it in, and finding out that, like, Major X was not just some brand new character, but had a connection to other X-Men characters.
Well, it is a brand new character, but has a connection.
I guess. The way that they sort of promoted it was it's a new character, but it's like, yes, but.
The funny part was they announced the second print of Major X #1 before 1 came out, and it showed the Major X character with the helmet off. And I'm like, I have no idea who that is.
No.
And in fact, I even thought from that image that the character was a completely different race than he wound up being.
Sure. But the thing about Major X #1 is when I looked at the back, I'm like, oh man, people flipped out about this stupid Mr. and Mrs. X has Xavier's space baby or whatever in it. So, oh my god, they're going to flip out over this? They didn't. We sold out at the end of the day, but we didn't have a lot of copies for the shelf, and no one called up asking about it.
We literally, we had... did we have a bunch of club ads after the fact?
We did. So, I mean, I'll talk numbers. We had one person who was down for it. So when we were doing our final numbers, I think the decision was you would put 10, and I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, if more people had added it between initial order and final order, I would have upped the numbers.
Yep.
But no one did. And then 3 days before release, we had 4 more people at it. So we only had like 5 copies for the rack. And I thought, God, between like, normal people who shop at the store who are speculators and then people who are likely to just pick it up because it's a new X-Men #1 and they weren't thinking about it, and people who might come to the store especially to get this, calling ahead, there's no way this thing's going to last very long. It lasted until the last transaction of the day.
Yeah.
It lasted all of Wednesday.
And
Which means we sold 5 copies all of Wednesday off the shelf. So after that, I'm like, all right, I guess no one cares. I can't predict this, and I should never try.
Admittedly, if they had told us who the character was, I might have gone a little higher.
Maybe.
But I know they need to keep their secrets. I know they can't trust retailers. But I also know who cares. Who cares?
Yeah, the can't trusting retailers thing is just an eternal disappointment to me because there's so many ways that we could be a better, more structured, safer, better capitalized industry if we could work with publishers on these things. But because a huge segment of the retailer class will immediately spoil for any number of dumb reasons any information they're given, publishers can't. So we're constantly trying to run our business with one arm tied behind our back.
Yeah.
Because there's a thing that's going on right now, I don't know where it is, called CinemaCon, that is basically movie studios bringing stars and preview footage to theater owners, movie theater exhibition chain owners, executives,
from around the country,
to promote like the rest of the next 12 months worth of movies. So they're getting, not only pitches from directors and producers and studio heads, but they're seeing exclusive footage that's not, put out to the world at the same time in the way that like a trailer for Comic-Con might be. But it is just, this is information we want you to have, why we think you should get behind this movie and put it in a bunch of theaters, because you need this information to do your job. We want to give you all the tools necessary to get excited about this thing because we need you to put it in your theaters. Almost nothing like that happens with comics, at least at the Marvel DC level. Like, occasionally we'll get, here's a promo PDF of War of the Realms #1 or Deceased #1, but it's super watermarked and it's not the final project, and it's done in a way where it's very like skittishly, fine, you can have this much of it, but that's all. Or we're withholding this final page because we don't want anyone to find out. But most books we don't even get to read.
Yeah.
We have to wait till Tuesday night after we've already ordered it and unpacked it and are about to put it on the shelves, and then we can go, oh, here's what's happening in this comic book.
Speaking of books we get to read early, this week we received, i.e. I went and picked up, our free comic book day books for 2019's free comic book day.
May 4th.
Now, annoyingly, I don't know which is the better way to do it. I do know this way costs us more money. Normally, the free comic book day books are a separate shipment on a separate day, which means a separate trip out to...
Where we go pick up the book.
Yeah. Elk Grove Village to get the books, and a separate time out there. This time, it was with the normal books for the week, which meant that we were getting a tremendous number of boxes above what we normally get, meaning that even though I drive a small SUV, my car was not nearly big enough.
Too small.
Meaning we had to pay to rent a bigger vehicle that I could drive out to Elk Grove Village to fill up with books. So we already have like an extra $100, $85 plus 3 gallons of gas as a deficit for this year's free comic book day.
Yes.
Like, it's already costing us that much more to do it. But anyway, after a full day of checking them in and sorting them, blah, 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 have you looked at them?
No.
I have read Avengers and Spider-Man.
Okay, how were they? Is that one book?
No.
2 books?
It's 2 books, because it's the Spider-Man book is half Venom, half Peter and Miles together.
Okay.
And the Avengers book is just Avengers.
Oh, it's not like Guardians as well?
No, it was not a flip book. The Avengers is fun. So here's the thing. Spider-Man is mainly a Venom book. It's setting up absolute carnage.
Yeah, which I think Marvel told us at C2E2.
Yeah. Fine. That's your launch book. Avengers is just a fun little, hey, here's stuff happening around the Avengers HQ. It's narrated in a way that if you're not reading Avengers, it catches you up to speed.
Sure. If you've maybe just gone to see a 3-hour-long Avengers movie, here's more Avengers content that you might like.
I think it's a really great, no-stakes introduction to the book, and it explains why, like, oh, well, She-Hulk is a member, and Ghost Rider,
they live
and
in a
Blade.
Celestial, and Gorilla Man is there.
Yes. No, Gorilla Man is not mentioned in the book.
Aww.
I think he might be mentioned, but he's not in it.
Okay.
But that is a good, fun, like, satisfying, oh, you get this.
Sure.
The back half of Spider-Man, which is, it's advertised as Peter versus, like, finally Peter versus Miles. It is that, but in a completely different way.
I like finally, like that's the thing that we're constantly hearing from people.
Right.
Why can't Peter Parker fight Miles Morales?
Why can't this adult fight this child?
Said no one ever.
And it's a fun, no stakes, you just get this thing. The Venom part of it, I don't care about.
I don't care
about it at all. And it's the big summer crossover, but that's a good...
For me, that's par for the course with Marvel, because I didn't care about Infinity Wars at all. Like, I read the Prime one and was like, and then I didn't read the rest of it. We still sold well on it, so clearly I don't have to care.
Oh, I already know this
Absolute
Carnage. I keep remembering, what is the adjective?
What's more than maximum? Absolute.
Absolute. So it's a $100 hardcover that's oversized?
It is actually a flavor of vodka.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Carnage flavored.
It's vodka, but with a little bit of a symbiote inside.
However, I don't feel the need to pull any of those books for subscribers.
No.
In the past, we may have done it because it's like, hey, it's the start of a new story or whatever.
It's Secret Wars 0.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I, honestly, like, the amount of extra aggravation on Tuesday, I'm like, no, forget it. They have to come in. If I have to go through all this extra work, they have to come in. And then we got a promo copy of a PDF of Deceased, and I read it, and it was fine.
Sure.
I want a little more, but I don't know if I think, because basically it's linear. Here's a thing that happens. Here's a cause. The effect is this virus that starts to spread. I don't know if this is the kind of story where you start with the virus and grip people right away, because it's called Deceased. You know what happens.
Right.
So
you don't want to spend 10 pages of the first issue getting to zombies. You want immediate zombies.
Up that number.
Okay, but I'm just using that as an example.
Right. Yeah, I feel like if you want to go back and say what caused it, fine.
Sure.
I don't know if it would have been served.
Bendis was writing it, that would have been page 4.
Well,
it's like 8 days earlier.
But there's a better way to do that.
Sure.
I still the art was good. I think it has good potential. There's some good lines.
I definitely know there's an audience for it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
for sure.
DC Zombies is a pretty easy sell to people.
Which is why it's not going to have to be like a hand sell of a Little Bird.
No, and I'm completely fine with stuff like Absolute Carnage and Deceased that is not necessarily for me as a comics fan. Like in the same way that we can't necessarily sell everything that we care about, plenty of stuff sells that we don't care about. That's fine. It's a big market. There's a lot of readers.
Rub the Damned in my face. Why don't you?
Sorry.
My goodness.
Damn trades sell well.
Yeah. Not great, but okay.
Yeah.
Very excited for...
I sold a 6-gun volume 1 to someone 2 days ago.
Excellent. Speaking of 6 guns, speaking of Colin Hunt and Brian Hurt, and speaking of Harrow County, which I only did because I threw it in there, Tyler Crook. What is their new book? Dark Manor?
Manor Black.
Manor Black, a new series coming out, written by Colin and Brian, and I assume fully painted by Tyler Crook.
I believe so, yes. Coming
out, did they say when?
July,
August?
I think, probably.
From Dark Horse. Looking forward to that. Don't know what it is. Don't need to know. Know that those 3 creators involved. I assume horror. I'm in it.
Yes, supernatural horror.
I'm in it. Those guys, I'm in it.
Basically, it's a character named Roman Black, who is an old wizard who is going to have to bequeath his magical abilities and knowledge to one of his horrible children. Decides that instead he'll bring this other woman into the fold and maybe make her his heir.
Okay.
And how that screws everybody up.
And it said she shares the power with her whole family of orphans. Is Black spelled normal? Is it like Blaqe?
Black is spelled normal, and Manor is spelled like a manor house.
That's what I figured. Yeah. Neat. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And that has been this week of comics in Chicago at Challengers. Thanks for all of the 11th anniversary well wishes. Thank you for the cookies, Margie and Keith and kids. And thank you for the Who's Your Mama pie from the Scouts. And thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.